Hey guys, how you going? VaulSC here. Today we're going to take a look at a game of infiNity between Onyx, the sectorial for Combined Army, and YuJing in all their glory after the post-uprising situation. The mission for this one is going to be the grid. Now the grid is not my favorite mission in the pack. It's not the worst mission in the pack. It's a playable and acceptable mission. The thing about this one is that for the first game round, you can really only damage your opponent and get damage done to him and go after the designated target with your data tracker, which is worth a fair few points. But in the second game round, you can start to capture these consoles by designating them either by pressing the button with the specialist or using a forward observer to just forward observe them, because that counts as pressing a button in this particular scenario. After you have designated the objective, you can then blow it up with something which has anti-material, such as a missile launcher. Missile launcher on a link team is best in this scenario because there's a saturation zone, but apparently saturation zones work in such a way that if you fire a split burst with one shot that direction and another shot this direction, each of those shots can't be reduced down below one, so you're still getting the effect of 2 shots off. So the strategy is to take the objective and then fire the missiles and start blowing them up. And after that's done, after you've removed an objective, your opponent can't go after it. If you've just designated it but not destroyed it, your opponent can revert it back and destroy it in their turn. But going first is actually a pretty good strategy for this mission, because it means you can just freely spend the first turn killing their designated target with your data tracker, getting ahead with that, making sure they have to catch up, but also doing a little bit of damage to their troops, possibly even taking out their missile launcher or taking out their specialists or things that can actually get them ahead in the scenario. Then, if you have played correctly in the second game round, if you've got guys ready to do the job, you start designating and destroying, and you just ignore the enemy army for the rest of the game. If you are so efficient at doing that you can take 5 of the 9 objectives and destroy them, then the game's in the bag. You just can't lose after that. So I feel like the mission lacks a little bit compared to something like Comm Center, which is a bit more balanced, in the sense that it can be a little bit too easy to complete the mission in some cases. But what mitigates things, or what makes this mission okay in my books, is that the objectives themselves can be deceptively difficult to destroy. They've got 2 wounds, they've got some armor, and getting through the saturation zone to actually kill enemy models at the start of the game can be really, really annoying. So that's the kind of game that you play when you're playing the grid. Just getting straight into the whole deployment side of things, I'm playing Onyx here with the Unitrons, of course, so both of my Imitrons have landed successfully. I've got my designated target here, just using a traitorous YuJing model to be the designated target. No wonder they're trying to track her down and kill her. She's a YuJing model, but working for Onyx in this particular case. Icodron back here, Bit and Kiss, with Kiss specifically on the building, and Bit further over there. This is an R drone with an Icodron and a Unidron. This particular Icodron is actually my spare Icodron for the link team that we'll see in just a second. So behind that particular building we were just looking at, R drone, Icodron, Unidron, forward observer I might add, very, very useful for the scenario, and Bit and Kiss prone on top of the building. Low Kiss can't be prone, it's just Bit up front ready to get going. So right hand flank, this is where the link team's situated. Now my lieutenant is actually a Nexus regular specialist operative, and he basically is the pivot for the link team. He's able to go prone, he's the link leader, and everybody else can either move around this side or on this side. So you've got the missile launcher. Usually I take a plasma sniper, but the missile launcher is key for this particular mission. These guys here are forward observers, and this guy is a Spitfire. Note that if one of them dies, there's another Unidron further off to the left-hand side of the photo, which can rejoin them later. On top of the building, we've got our Nexus hacker, and there's a Noctifer with missile launcher here. He is deployed on the table, not in hidden deployment, because I want to use every single order I can at the start of the game to commit to an alpha strike. On the stairs nearby, there is a Malignos forward observer to help out with the objective grabbing later on. So you can sort of see bird's eye view. The Unidrons are behind the building back here. I've got the 2 Nexus on top. The Noctifer is looking out with a very wide view of the battlefield. My reserve model after my opponent's deployed is going to be a Q drone, just hard on the left-hand flank. He's got an HMG. He's within range of a repeater on the other side of this box. There's an Icodron back here, so he's going to be able to take assisted fire from the Nexus on the building and start moving out to shred some Guangxi and some Shaolin monks. Now, my opponent on the other side here has deployed Major Luna on top of the building. Major Luna isn't the best sniper in the game, but I do recommend taking her in missions which have a saturation zone. So my opponent, I think, is justified taking her because marksmanship level X actually is reasonably good in this particular situation, and having any kind of sniper as a arrow piece is always good because your opponent will find it much harder to destroy it with high burst weapons because of that saturation zone. Guangxi, the other Guangxi's further on the other side of the table. Let me just move my face around here. We've got a Celestial Guard prone here with the Guangxi control device. There are some Canren Hollow Echoes over here. This is just a flashball spot, and he's got his Pheasant right here. Pheasant with Spitfire, or Red Fury, I should say. Chain of Command. Oh, and his designated target, mind you, is this other Dragon Lady. You can see right here. She hasn't really painted those, so she isn't really standing out in the photo. Towards the middle of the deployment zone, you can see he's got a Shaolin Monk. There are the Canren Hollow Echoes there. He's actually running a Canren Killer Hacker, disguised as a Fort Observer. There's the other Guangxi, and he's got a Sensor Bot, which will come in handy for the mission. Now, I don't know it at this point in time, but he actually has a Hack Tower with Missile Launcher hidden deployed there, and that is quite crucial, isn't it? Because that Hack Tower is going to be very good at blowing up the scenario objectives, and he could be really painful if I move along his long sight lanes for this mission. On top, through the middle of the table, we have got a Guilang Fort Observer through here, and you've got the Canren models, as we saw earlier, which don't really have that much impact here. And in the distance, you can see where my guys are. There's a Noctifer and the Malignos. Just moving that around. Okay, his reserve model is a Crane rank Imperial Agent with a multi-rifle and a sensor. He does really like that profile, I think, especially for the triangulated fire. So, with the game beginning, I'm spending my first order putting assisted fire on the Q-Drone, then it starts moving. Note that the Q-Drone does move past the line of sight of the Hack Tower and hidden deployment, but he wisely decides not to reveal him there. That would have been a mistake, although it would have been likely to have taken out the Q-Drone. It reveals the Hack Tower, and I can actually fight back on my first turn and kill him a bit more quickly. Having said that, though, the Hack Tower might have even been at long range because it's on a diagonal side from one corner of the table to the other, so it might not even been able to hit me, or not effectively anyway. So in this photo, we're just trying to avoid the line of sight of Major Luna initially, and the Q-Drone is able to do that, but as soon as he moves over through to here, there's going to be a shootout, and it's going to be my 4 dice subtracted by 1 to get 3 dice from the saturation zone. Once I move through here, though, I'm starting to pick up arrows from the Guangxi, and if he doesn't reveal with Major Luna, I'm just going to shoot the Guangxi, and I'm going to get value out of my piece. But if he reveals Major Luna, I'm going to shoot with the Q-Drone. Right, so just moving through, taking aim at one of these Guangxi, and I think I did manage to destroy one of them, or possibly split my burst once Major Luna comes around. You can see my opponent sort of trying to get some line of sight there. So Major Luna does opt to reveal herself and fires around at the Q-Drone, who is able to shoot back with 3 shots. Now, the face-to-face roll goes as follows. I decided to put all of my shots into Major Luna. The Guangxi fires his pistol at long range, and the flashball spot fires at me as well as I move around the corner. The flashball spot connects, but I pass my BTS check. The Guangxi misses his pistol shot. Major Luna does actually lose the face-to-face roll, takes 1 single hit, but passes the armor save, and doesn't have to guts check because she's got religious. So she's still here. So my decision here is to continue to fire at her and stay at a line of sight of everybody else just by coming back here, gaining some cover now from the building, and just having a bit of a shootout with Major Luna through the top. Unfortunately, though, 3 dice versus 1 dice, you'd think I'd have an advantage here. I think I'm hitting on, once you factor in the Hermimetism, and this is 0 range band, I'm hitting on 8s with 3 dice, and she's hitting on, I think, a 9 with 1 dice. Anyway, fate has it that Major Luna just rolls a crit, obnoxiously, and destroys the Q-Drone. Sad face, Q-Drone dies. So my backup plan is to drop in a frac tower, and I decide to put down control jump I'm starting the turn with 8 orders in Group 1, and including the Fractar, that is, and 7 orders in Group 2, so I've got a lot of work to do. Fractar successfully landing, though, with Control Jump. He does not have a regular hacker to contest this, so Fractar landing. And the Fractar is then able to move into position to try the Combi Rifle at Major Luna, which is kind of sort of worse because the Combi Rifle is only 3 bursts, goes down to 2 in the saturation zone, although she's in a good range band, still up against Mimetism, and the Fractar not able to deal with Major Luna in the first volley. So I'm scratching my head here and going, man, this is supposed to be a devastating Alpha Strike, but I've basically got nothing done. So I decide, okay, here's what I probably should have done a couple of orders ago. Revealing the Noctifer to fire at Major Luna, and this is going to mean that Major Luna would be up against Tio Camo and Surprise Shot, and the Noctifer is higher than those 2 crates in the distance. So Major Luna goes for the dodge, Noctifer destroys her. So really I probably should have attempted that as soon as she had revealed herself to the Q drone. So a little bit of a mistake there by me. But we now have the Fractar. Now my data tracker is Bit and Kiss. So with Bit and Kiss so far away, and you know, for me, not really planning on actually attacking with them in next turn. I mean, after this game run, I'm going straight for the objectives, right? Fractar decides to gun down the designated target because that's going to net me at least a couple points there. Elsewhere, we've got the Link team, I think, moving a little bit, or the Noctifer, sorry, going back into hidden deployment is what's happening here. Sorry, Camo state. Bit and Kiss now moving out towards the objective and successfully pressing the button to capture it. That's going to help me speed up the process for next turn. And over his side of the table, it's all on. So the Fractar basically run out of orders by the end of it because she just didn't get anything done shooting the... Because she tried splitting burst against the Guangxi and the Flash Pulse spot, but just nothing got done through that saturation zone. So my opponent now moving up with impetuous orders. Shaolin moving forward, the Guangxi moving around towards the Fractar. He's got another guy around here who, luckily for him, doesn't move into range of the, or line of sight of the Noctifer. And Shaolin Monk attempting to throw a smoke grenade out in here into the midfield. Note that this dotted line is where the Noctifer sort of see through, but the Shaolin Monk unfortunately does not manage to get the hit down. So with the Noctifer able to sort of fire down through that alleyway, he decides to have a bit of a Hail Mary pass with the Celestial Guard with control device. But as soon as the Celestial Guard stands up to do the shooting, it's going to be face-to-face roll against the Noctifer as well. So the Noctifer does fire back and manages to win that shootout, destroying the control device Celestial Guard here. Note that it was quite close as to whether the template would have hit the crane, but luckily for YuJing here, the crane is not affected by the template, just out of line of sight or range. So my opponent here, sitting up as Guilang in the middle of the table, going for the shot against the Noctifer. Luckily for me, he is -1 burst for saturation zone. I just basically attempt to dodge here. He's got MSV1 to help him against the Tio Camo, but with just 2 shots and me dodging, I managed to avoid this one, and the Noctifer dodges prone. So that does actually free up his army to actually move out now that the Noctifer's not controlling that sight lane. So with that in mind, our Crane Rank, who is the data tracker, is moving us steadily across the table. He's basically left his position over here to come around through to here, and then he's going to be coming around through to here to take on the designated target. Note that the Fractar is still alive back on this side as well. He was tossing up whether to go after the Fractar, decided not to. So with the crane moving in, the designated target's destroyed by the data tracker, and that nets him a whole wad of points. So YuJing going for the lead as a result of this play. Now he sees that we've got Kiss here with his adhesive launcher, so he's deciding to move to this corner to take out this thing first. So he destroys the Imatron first, and then he goes after Kiss. So what happens is he moves up. So Bit and Kiss around here. The Guilang, mind you, does decide to lean out to try and have a go at Kiss, but doesn't succeed in doing that. So he decides to have a crack at it with the Crane Rank. And the Crane pulls around the corner and forgets that I have a repeater, and the Nexus starts hacking onto our friend the Crane, just as Bit and Kiss, well, Kiss I should say, starts shooting back at him. Now, I was unlucky to get shot with my Q-drone by Major Luna rolling a crit. But I pull the game back a bit somewhat when the adhesive launcher rolls a crit against the Crane. Actually, it doesn't roll a crit, just wins the face-to-face roll. So the Crane's firing with burst 2, just rolls like a 3 and a 17 or something like that. And Kiss rolls just a regular hit with the the adhesive launcher, Crane rolls a 20 for his phys check, and he's now immobilized for the rest of the game, but not destroyed. So he still has a lieutenant on the table and chain of command back up. So and of course, Guilung, not the sniper, but the Fort Observer going prone just to conserve his life for future. Over here, so I think what happens initially is that he's moving a coordinated order to bring some Guangxi into better positions against the Fractar in the next turn, but there was also a smoke grenade there as well. Bringing through his Fort Observer just around to this side here, he's going to be planning on Fort Observing these objectives later on if they are still there after the end of my turn. So that's what he's done there. Alright, Onyx turn 2. This model here to the bottom left is our Malignos, and he stands up and decides to start Fort Observing things. So Fort Observing this, Fort Observing this, Fort Observing this, Fort Observing this thing in the middle, and he's just basically gone pew, 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 Fort Observing everything and designated everything, ready for the link team to strike and destroy them. So you can see the photo here. After spending several orders, he's ticked off this one, this one, this one, and Bittenkiss have already got this one. But does take him a while to get this one, save that to last. I think he did get that during the turn. And then we can move out with our friendly Onyx link team, the Unidrons. Very importantly, this guy here, with assisted fire and the full benefit of the link team, able to move out and start firing missiles at that and the other objectives further around to blow them up. Unfortunately, though, what happens is he decides to spring the trap. He's got the almighty Hack Tower missile launcher, which is going to cause a face-to-face roll between me and the Hack Tower, sadly. So my burst 2 advantage in the active turn, if I fire both shots at the Hack Tower, will be negated by the saturation zone. I've got assisted fire on ballistic skill 17, but he does have TO camo, so I'll be hitting on an 11 on one dice, and the Hack Tower way out in the open hitting on a 17 on one dice, which is not ideal. It really is pretty bad. So this is a mistake here from me. I, after playing the first game round, thought that maybe he had a ninja and something else in hidden deployment. I didn't really factor in the Hack Tower, and I didn't really factor in him being there because he could have shot at the Malignos, he could have shot at my Noctifer, he could have shot at my Q-Drone. Stayed patient, didn't do that. So well played, YuJing side, and now he springs the Hack Tower just as he's needed, so good timing. Now the Unidron here gets a little bit of good luck. The Unidron does not get hit by the Hack Tower, but unfortunately I don't hit him in return in the face-to-face shootout. But after thinking about it for a bit, I shouldn't have really even been going for the face-to-face shootout. I should be accepting that the Unidron's probably going to lose this, and just start shooting the objectives. Because if I could start shooting this one against this one against this one, well, the Hack Tower has to do 3 wounds outright to remove him, in the first volley, that is. Because if I get hit and I take 2 wounds directly, I go into unconscious state level 2, but that does count as dogged because of the synergy between dogged and remote presence that the Unidrons have. So I could actually sustain 2 Hack Tower hits potentially, and in that time, I could blow up 4 objectives. So as soon as the first face-to-face trade-off didn't work, I decided to start shooting the objectives. But here's where the bad luck set in. The Unidron started missing all of his shots, like rolling 18s, 19s, 20s on hitting the objectives for every single sort of, missile shooting out here, and I basically destroyed nothing. I think except for a single objective, like I only got a single one. So that's pretty bad. The Noctifer is in, obviously, prone state back here, but things looking pretty good. Elsewhere, the Fractar pulling around the corner, starting to have some shots against the Flash Pulse spot and the Guangxi, just getting ever closer till we can pull around the corner, start shooting him. I do have a Nanopulsar here as well, and this guy can sustain 2 wounds, so he's pretty good at taking these guys out, and does manage to get the wound in on the what do you call this guy there? The Guangxi. Also getting close enough that once he starts impetuousing into me, I can fire my Nanopulsar and potentially pick up some of his guys. So that's where we end up, just coming around the corner, just trying to trade his life for the pheasant, because I figured, well, this is a plan B. This is another way I could win the game, is by using the Fractar to eliminate the pheasant, and then I could move Bittenkiss around the corner and shoot at the Crane who's immobilized and destroy him, meaning that in my opponent's next turn, lost lieutenant would mean that the Hack Tower doesn't really get that many attempts to go around and shoot objectives, which can prolong the game for a while. Unfortunately, though, the pheasant just tanks the armor saves, and I am left without even a plan B, sadly. So Bit and Kiss, just trying to escape around the other side. They know there's a missile launcher now, and just trying to set up a better position and maybe press some buttons on the other side of the building. So in my opponent's turn, here it comes. The Guangxi has to move in close combat with Impetuous. I am allowed to declare an ARO with my Nanopulsar. The Nanopulsar is allowed to be placed like this, so it touches the Guangxi, but it's also going to touch the Flash Pulse bot and the Pheasant. Now, annoyingly, even though he basically gets no AROs against this because it's his active turn, the Nanopulsar does no work, does no damage to the Guangxi, does no damage to the Pheasant, does no damage to the Flash Pulse spot. So I'm like, what? Can't believe it. Very, very annoying. So, time for him to go to work. He's moving out here with his sensor bot, and he's going to start targeting this objective and this objective. I've already removed the one in the middle. That's the one I did manage to get, and then he's also going to be targeting this one over here. So after that, the hack tower is just going to go nuts, starting to blow them up, and that's exactly what happens. Sensor bot moving around, and the Canron also changing position too, but it's really the hack tower going to work. Elsewhere, he's thinking about moving his Flash Pulse guy into combat with the Fractal, but then he realizes that I'd actually get an arrow, so he decides to pull back. The Pheasant moving out towards the objective. Now he's got a double action close combat weapon, so that's going to allow him to actually do even more work picking up the objectives. And then it's just simply a matter of the sensor bot doing its work, going behind here, and just basically picking up objectives in the name of YuJing while the hack tower blows them up. So by the end of the turn, I think he destroyed 2 of them and designated even more, and he's got his Pheasant in a position where even if I kill the hack tower, he can just use his double action close combat weapon on this one as well after pressing it to get up to 3 points. Whereas for me to actually get any more objectives on the board, I not only have to redesignate some of them, I also have to fire my Noctifer, and the Noctifer is in line of sight of the hack tower, which is not ideal. So here's our hack tower here. He just goes to work, starts blowing them up, takes out, I think, 2 objectives in the name of YuJing. So with my turn coming up here, turn 2, I figured, okay, well, maybe one thing I could do is move Bit and Kiss along the side of the battlefield and put a repeater next to him with the pitcher and maybe hack him. That might be a backup plan. So attempting to do that. As we move past the Shaolin Monk, trying to remove him with the submachine gun, but annoyingly he passes his dodge smoke, and I can't even go for this middle objective now because the smoke's there. Bit and Kiss move out to put the repeater down in this location here, but they fail their attempt, so that's just more orders wasted. Malignos moving out now just to do some more designating in full line of sight of the hack tower, but it doesn't really matter at this point. I just need to try and designate things, and unfortunately that doesn't go too well. So over here we've got the Unidrons, which can be moved out as a 3-man link team. I've got a Spitfire, but with a 3-man link team and assisted fire, it's like ballistical 14 minus 12 at long range, or even like 9. No, it'd be minus 12 once you've. It'd be minus 3 for long range, minus 6 for Teo Camo, starting at ballistical 11. Yeah, it's not a really good odds to shoot at the hack tower with the Spitfire. I do want to point out that if the hack tower had revealed earlier in the game, or if I had managed to be in a position where I could actually maneuver the Spitfire into position, a 5-man link team with assisted fire and the Spitfire is like 17s down to 11. So 11's hit on 5 dice versus probably the hack tower hitting on an 11 with 1 dice with just medium range and minus 3 for cover. So the Spitfire would have done wonders, and that's a really good counter, but I couldn't maneuver that into position because of the way the table was for this particular game. So these guys, all they can do is really move out and use their forward-observing ability to designate more targets. Getting desperate at this point, I decided to get the Noctifer out and just really hope that the hack tower misses, because the hack tower is up against Teo Camo, needing an 8 to hit on 1 dice. So the Noctifer is able to move out and stand up and shoot and trying to get some work done, but the hack tower beats him, and the Noctifer is destroyed as well. So took a risk there, but I was kind of, in such a sorry state at this point, nothing else I could do. So even though I have a few more orders to spend this turn, and YuJing have, a whole nother turn after this, there's nothing really I can do. I've basically lost the game because he's ahead in terms of the data tracker killing the designated target. I've only got 1 destroyed objective, and even if I get a second one, he can get his 3rd one quite easily, either with the Pheasant or the hack tower. So absolutely nothing I can do. Game is lost at this point, so that's where we sort of called it. In terms of the outcome of this game, I felt like I got outplayed in terms of the hack tower's position, but I also sort of played myself in the sense that I sort of committed to a part of the table where my backup Unidron for the Link team was out of reach. The Spitfire couldn't have really been maneuvered into position very well, and the Noctifer is in the same side of the table as the other missile launcher. So I've sort of put all my eggs in one basket, and I've come up against a situation where I'm in unfavorable odds. In terms of luck this game, I definitely got shafted with the Q drone and the Fractar. They did really poorly. Didn't kill Major Luna. She got a crit of me. The Fractar kept missing everything. All his armor save got passed. He couldn't even take out his chain of command. So killing his lieutenant was out of the question. My Onyx missile launcher Unidron just performed poorly, like needing 17s and just completely whiffing shots against objectives. That didn't help either. Bit and Kiss were pretty awful with shooting and pitcher. So I had really, really bad luck this game. My opponent also had some bad luck in the sense that he lost his control device with a smoke throw. That didn't really work very well. His crane was extremely unlucky to not beat Kiss in a face-to-face roll. So there was bad luck on both sides. I had a little bit more of it, but I don't think it was really luck that contributed to the outcome of this game. It was really a positioning thing and a little bit of oversight, and I guess you could say bad luck, not in terms of the dice rolls, but bad luck in the sense of me happening to be up against that particular list on that particular table with my particular setup for this particular scenario. So it didn't work out well there. But I'm actually very happy with this list. I'm very happy with my strategy for this mission. And my recommendation is to try and take first turn. Even though you can see that I lost this particular game, what you can also see is a situation in my second turn where I've designated 5 objectives and I've got a missile launcher with enough orders to just blow them up. So if my missile launcher had just gone around systematically and not encountered a hack tower, or if I'd had some mechanism to destroy the hack tower, this game would have been a trivially easy win. So fairly confident going into games of future for the grid. But for now, we'll call it a day and see you guys in the next one.